Jim can. Oh, okay. You just get a part of the form.
Take your, Jim, you're muted.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, second by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion? Seeing none, motion approved. Okay, item 2.2, recommended approval to upgrade internet access, I'm speaking so loud, I don't want, access and renewal service contract with First Fiber Inc. Motion?
A motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Full motion approved. 2.3, recommend approval of bid 2023-03 for a mobile enrollment vehicle to Technology International Inc. Motion?
Moved.
Margaret, second.
I'll second.
Right.
Tell me that it's recommend approval of bid 2023-03.
03.
What's that mean?
Well, that's the bid number, I would guess,
Oh.
right, Michael? Yes, yeah, that's
Oh,
the
it's
bid number, and
not
this is the,
year.
right, this is
Okay.
the admissions, van that we got through SUNY grant.
All right. Okay.
Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All, any against? Well, motion passed. 2.4, recommended approval of resolution recommending candidates for continuing appointment. Motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Jim, Margaret, discussion?
These are standard contractual promotions.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion approved. Okay, recommended approval of SUNY Broome 5-year proposal capital improvement plan 2024 to 2029. Motion,
I'll move it.
Margaret, second.
I'll second.
Al, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
I just recommend that this be this not be part of the consent agenda on Thursday, and we'll have a little more detailed presentation at the board meeting on Thursday, but it should be a separate action item in light of the fact that it then has to go to the county and be submitted as part of their capital improvement plan process.
I should have asked for discussion, sorry.
Yeah, it's a 5-year plan, but that's a bit of a misnomer because we really only pay attention to the next year. That's not what they're.
Thank you.
Year to year.
All right,
We'll actually correct this for Thursday. It's actually a 6-year plan instead of a 5-year plan. But to Dr. Drum's point, the primary focus is year 1, which is the county's calendar year 2024.
all right. 2.6, recommended approval of a professional service contract renewal for STEM division interim dean for the period of June 1, 23 to May 31, 24. Motion,
I'll move it.
Margaret, second.
Second.
Jim, discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, information items, presence report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It's beautiful one it is. What an extraordinary time. You not remember February like this. This is incredible. Not good for the ski resorts, but pleasant for everybody's mood. You saw my note, Lynn. It's the first time once the semester has started and enrollment has been up in any way. And we'll see where it ends when the concurrent enrollment fast forward registrations, come in. Will be roughly, around flattening. It could be slightly down, could be slightly up when all said and done, but at least we're finally trending in the right direction. getting past the well of the past couple of COVID years. Really good feeling. Attended Dickinson Town Hall last evening. There's been a lot of questions about pending purchase of the Bowles land. Actually, most of the questions had to do with the current situation of the land and the current owners of the land. There's much more of their concern probably had to do with it, my sharing over and over again that there's no immediate plans to do anything with the property. Who knows what may happen down the road, but the big issue was the flooding that's happened in the neighborhood over the years. It's nothing the college had anything to do with. We have flooded as well and we were victims of both the river and the runoff. 2010. The last big flood. Before that was 11, and before that was 2006. But that's where most of the questions. One person doesn't believe that we don't plan to develop the land. Quite vocal that he doesn't believe us, but I guess that's not to be a surprise. And I was very clear that who knows what future administrations may want to do with the land. But, and that if we did expand housing in the near term, and there's not an immediate plan to do that either until we build the building we have, it would be right up front where we are, and that's always been the plan. So as far as any immediate concerns for college, I took care of most of that. Those are the two big items. I guess I'll end my report there and leave some more time for Michael to talk about the budget and finance updates.
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Drum before we turn it over to Michael? Hey, Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have a couple of really brief items to discuss. You have the monthly budget forecast, which is pretty much the same as the last several months. Certainly have spring enrollment data, so the forecast is continuing to indicate that it looks like we're going to need about 3.8 million of stimulus money to keep the budget balanced. That will leave the college with about 2.9 million, that a major portion of which the college would expect to need for next year's proposed budget. So that's the monthly budget forecast. There's a lot of detail in the narrative that you can read at your leisure that kind of explains the various variances. Also included in your packet is SUNY Finance's a preliminary analysis of the governor's proposed 2023-2024 state budget. Again, it's pretty comprehensive. 80% of it talks primarily about the four-year institution. So you get a real clear idea of where the community college's status is in the context of resource allocation. Just a couple of highlights. One is that the proposal does reflect 100% floor proposal. A couple of years ago, it was 98% of whatever your prior year was, especially in light of declining enrollment for most of the community colleges. In the past, the methodology was always this weighted average of your enrollment, 50% of your most recent prior year, and then 25% of the prior year, and then the third prior year. So it was kind of this weighted average where they weighed the most current year heavier, and then the prior 2 years at about 25%. So based on declining enrollment, that was a significant drop for just about every community college. So there was an effort several years ago to say, hey, similar to K through 12, can we be kind of held harmless at the prior year allocation? So rather than use those terms, the floor terminology is being used. But basically what that means is that we would continue to get about 13 million in state aid. If you take a look at the budget forecast, you'll see in the prior year column 12.99 million, and in essence that's what we get, just about 13 million based on the governor's proposal. Another major initiative that's in the proposal is something called a transformation fund. There's 75 million in there. It's been kind of some backroom discussions that this funding pot could be utilized for such things as collaborative initiatives between higher education institutions within SUNY.
That's us, right?
That would include us. We'd probably be at the forefront of that. We understand there may be an innovation, not to be confused with transformation, task force that the SUNY chancellor is going to appoint and kind of figure out, assuming state legislature approves the 75 million, both the criteria. If you read the language, two or three lines in this document, it covers just about everything, in my opinion. But notwithstanding that, I think a priority area is with probably at least a dozen community colleges under significant financial duress, that SUNY, I think, is certainly interested in maybe some incentive funding around trying to have high-level conversations among both the four-year institutions and two-year institutions. So a long way to go. We need state legislative approval. Then we're going to need to wait for SUNY guidelines around who can apply and when they can apply and what criteria is going to be used, all of that. But in any event, I think there will be, if approved, I think it would give the college an opportunity to apply for one-time funding. This would be a one-year appropriation that would be available. Also included, there's some interesting language about a 20% holdback of the state aid formula. So for us, 13 million, 20% holdback would be about 2.6 million. Not too sure what the likelihood of that being passed. Kind of looks like a New York State Division of Budget initiative. So we're just going to have to see. At this point, it's a pretty significant sum that would be at the discretion of, I don't know if it's at the discretion of the Division of Budget or SUNY or a combination of both. So we'll just have to watch that. I'm not too sure that's going to see the light of day.
The trustees group is screaming and yelling about that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, there's also language in there about studying the elimination of the floor. It's associated with that 20% holdback. So it's kind of a double shot across the bow. Yeah.
So, and last but not least in there is just, finance just approved the capital plan. So just so you know, the capital plan is a long journey. It's 15 months. So we start the capital plan now, right? The board hopefully will approve it on Thursday, and we submit it to the county in the end of February. Then the county reviews it. They have a capital project group that looks at all the county requests, including the college. And then the county exec makes a recommendation to the county legislature when he submits the county operating budget, which is usually in the middle of September. And it takes 90 days for the county ledge to discern on that and approve it. Generally, whatever the county exec recommends, at least over the last 7 years, has generally been approved by the county ledge. Then that gets, depending on what the county decides to fund out of what finance has recommended. We certify all that to SUNY, and then SUNY submits that for state budget approval. So we rewind the tape a year ago in February. What's in this budget is what got approved by the board a year ago. And so it's kind of taking its final stage with the state budget. So everything that the county approved is in this document. I just want you to be aware of it. It's on the last couple of pages. It shows the college's SUNY Broome's 4 projects on page 11 out of 12. So assuming that gets approved, again, whatever the governor proposes generally gets approved by the state legislature. So that'll be April. So that's the 15-month cycle. February of the prior year, April of the subsequent year. And then it's a couple months for them to set up a project, and then you can start spending the money. So it's a long, complicated, micromanaged process, believe me. So that's state budget. The college is currently for next year's budget. Budget instructions were sent out for the first of this month. They're due by March 1st. Meanwhile, while all the department requests are happening at the macro level, we're kind of fine tuning with all the assumptions around the revenues and expenses. So again, timeline, we expect to come back to the finance committee in April with a draft budget that then you would take action on, that gets submitted to the county on or about May 1. And the county would review it during the month of May, submit their recommendation, which pretty much is 2 items that Plan C requires: total appropriations of the budget and the sponsor's share. Typically, we ask anywhere between 1% and 2%, generally pretty modest. So, they're currently in the neighborhood of 7.5 million. So 1% is 75 grand, and 2% would be about 150, 160,000. So county executive submits his recommendation on or about June 1. Then the county legislature takes action during the first 2 weeks of June. And then we come back to the board in June to just affirm the total appropriations, if we have to make any adjustments based on the sponsor share. And then you get the detailed resolution and tuition and fee schedule and any number of county chargebacks to the college for some intercorporate allocations. So that's kind of the schedule. I would expect, while we're finalizing at a high level next year's budget, we're also updating the multi-year sustainability plan, which the board chair asked us to update, which we had planned to do. We'll probably do that in March. I think we'll spend a little bit of time on capital, which I think is pretty significant ask that you just approved. So we're going a little more detail at the board meeting to get capital out of the way this month, really talk about sustainability plan in March, and then present the budget in April, and then come back in June. So it's pretty heavy 3 or 4 months of budget. Meanwhile, we're also still dealing with last year. We're finalizing the audit with Bonadeo, and we expect that will come to the board in March. Worst case April, but we think we'll be ready in March. I think that's covers the main.
You don't anticipate any problems with the Bonadeo thing?
No, we don't expect any findings, and we expect a clean opinion at this point. one of the things that has taken a little longer, I think we generally come in February, in order to be able to appropriate some of the HERF funding to the affiliates, which included FSA for meal plan funding during COVID, and housing to kind of support some of their vacancies. It was required that those two affiliates be component units within the college's financial statements. So to do that, we have to have final numbers from the affiliates, which housing has already submitted its and received approval from the housing board for their audited financial statements. They're on a fiscal year that ends in June. FSA were finalizing the audit. Again, their fiscal year ends last June. So we need those in just a page in, and we also have the foundation as a component unit within the college, total audited financial statements. So we'll have all three of them as component units. And as you may or may not know, the community college is also a component unit of the county's audited financial statements, because we are a department kind of within the county, being their sponsor and own the assets of the college in perpetuity. So that's kind of the schedule for the next 3 or 4 months, and that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions.
Well, there's other items here, but
The rest are pretty much informational
Okay.
items, have just the monthly.
How about the student village housing report?
So all that, I guess, historically, we've always indicated that we made the mortgage mortgage payment this month, and that's all that really is.
Okay, before we go to Dave, anybody have any questions? Marianne? Any questions? No. Okay. Facilities update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You should have a report in front of you. I'll try to hit the highlights. Perhaps the main highlight is the kickoff meeting for the Decker Nursing Renovation Project will be held this week, or should I say next week, with the architect and the construction manager. When is it? It's Thursday, Living, right? Is it Thursday? Yeah. So it'll be before the board meeting, so I can report back to you on Thursday night how that meeting went. But we're going to meet internally as well with SUNY Broome staff before we meet with both Lobella and Chase. But that is, for all intents and purposes, the kickoff of that project, and we'll be able to go full speed ahead. A new scoreboard, if you haven't noticed, has been installed up at SUNY Broome baseball field. A dedication ceremony is scheduled for April 29th. We also, this past week, had a pre-bid meeting and a walkthrough of the Old Science and Student Services restrooms project. That bid opening is currently scheduled for February 23rd. We're also in the process of developing RFPs for both the Old Science building for conversion to a student union and the library to re-engineer the space in the library. There's a lot of space in there now that we don't have as many books and periodicals. And as I said, we're in the process of getting an RFP developed and circulated for that. Some of the other highlights. The concrete pad for that new fitness center that we're going to install on the outside of the student center will be poured in early March, allow it to cure, and then the equipment can be installed in April. So that should be completed, or will be completed, by May 1st. We had our final meeting with the architect regarding the photo lab and Old Science. So the next step there is to package that up for bidding. We're working closely with Jesse's people in Marcon to finalize the contract to upgrade signing across the campus, in particular, the addition of digital signing at a number of key locations. And what we need to do on the engineering side is get the appropriate drawings in place so that can go out to bid. I've spoken to the next couple of items in my previous reports. One thing I did want to speak to is Libin Babu is here, and I introduced him a number of months ago, but because he works with or closely with NYSERDA, we need to report out to them on a quarterly basis what we're doing from the standpoint of energy savings. And rather than go through that now, I think it might be appropriate, whether it be this quarter or perhaps the next quarter, for him to report out to either this committee or the board as to what has been going on over the last 6 to 9 months with respect to energy management. And the last thing to report on, and some of you may know this, but some of you may not. Have you seen the news about the film that's being produced in the Binghamton area? Has anybody seen that? It's called Stationed at Home. It's by Full Fledged Film Productions. About a year and a half ago, we worked with the New York State Governor's Office of Motion Picture and Television Development, and we got the Baldwin Gym qualified as a level 1 production facility. So this Friday, from 8 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning, that crew will be in our gym using it for further production of that movie, which is being promoted. If you look online, I don't know if you've seen that, Barbara, now, but yeah, the name of the movie, as I said, is Stationed at Home. So the Baldwin Gym is going to be part of that, and luckily Broome Community College, SUNY Broome was able to get that to get our gym qualified. So,
Do we get paid?
do we get paid? No. No. It's an agreement that we have with the governor's office for them to use our facility. Yeah. So with that, any questions?
She still wants to keep 20% of our money.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you. Anything else to be discussed? Before I ask for adjournment? Seeing none, will someone like to make a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Jim,
Second.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.